Hi everyone, my name is Joanna and today I wanted to do a video and talk about how you can actually use your intuition and dialogue with yourself. I've referenced in videos kind of waiting for nudges and getting direction, but you can actually use your heart resonance to communicate with yourself, with your higher being, source, whatever you want to call it, and give feedback in the moment related to things that you are thinking about or questioning. It's pretty common, I find, that people get locked into their thinking brain and they have a really hard time sometimes separating themselves or the thoughts that they're having from intuition, sort of those intuitive guiding points that tell us where to go. It's often that intuition will strike at a time that maybe we're not in a receiving mode, or sometimes it can be hard because it can launch us into fear, whatever the feedback is. All of a sudden someone might have a sense of what they need to do and the brain starts to yell and warn and start sort of a negative self-talk loop, and it can really scare people out of the very things that they're desiring and that they are actually being nudged towards. So the first thing I wanted to do is just talk about a term called heart resonance. A lot of people probably have no idea what I'm referencing. And the easiest way for me to describe that is, it is that sense you get here. It's that knowing. You've likely had it naturally happen where you either know something feels like it's a match, a good fit, or you've had moments where there's been almost an aversion to something, like it's just an internal recoil. And that is your heart resonance. So that is actually your intuition giving you feedback and helping to guide you to align you with what is actually best serving and usually what it is that you're truly wanting. So you can't always know that the path leads to that, but if you're standing at a doorway or sort of a fork in the road and you're trying to figure out which direction to go, you can actually ask yourself and use your heart resonance to do that. So just actually the other day, I had someone I was meeting with and she was really pondering something and she just couldn't get a feel for what it was that she thought was best. She was really locked into her head, and anyone that's met with me always knows I tell people, get out of your head, get out of your head. And sometimes people say, how? I don't know how. So one thing you can always do is, if you're really trying to come up with an answer and you're open to truth, what you can do is, and what I usually encourage, is to really pull up a sense of happiness or gratitude in your heart chakra. So, focus here and really bring up images that bring love and gratitude. So whether it be someone that, like your kids, or something that's just very important to you, or funny jokes, something that's going to make your heart smile. Because when you start to feel that smile here, you'll often start to feel the smile here, and that will start to actually conjure up the whole emotionality of love, sometimes peace, contentment, and you're open. So you're opening your ability to actually communicate with yourself on this level. And when you're in that emotional state and you can feel just sort of that happiness and joy in your heart, that is the time to ask and run the question through yourself. Usually, especially in the beginning of practice, I recommend a yes or no. So, should I blah, 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 yes or no? And then whatever is the first and immediate response is your answer. It does not necessarily mean that you on a rational level will like the answer, but the likelihood is you will feel the connect. You will know and you can sense the truth there. So your heart resonance, your heart chakra, is a really great way to also connect with truth. You can often tell when something seems to be real and when something or someone else or a situation seems to be kind of deceptive, something can feel off. So that again is the resonance. So you can use the resonance, and when something resonates with you, it means that you get positive feedback. It means sometimes you can feel excitement, you can feel a lot of energy, you can feel positive emotion. Sometimes you might find relief, calm, but it's usually a positive sensing, and that is resonance. There can be times where you might ask yourself a question and you could get a very neutral response. One thing could be that right now you're just not at a point to know the answers. The other thing is that sometimes people tend to numb. So what I usually encourage is, do you feel a neutrality or do you feel a numbness, which can feel sort of like a void or a vacuum? If you are feeling more of the numbness, then you are actually not in a space to receive the information and to check with your heart resonance, because you are emotionally closed down. You're pretty blocked. And we tend to do that sometimes in times of stress, or if we're really overwhelmed, or if we're just not wanting to deal with something, whether it's related to your question or something else. So that would be a time where maybe you take a break, meditate, try again, see if you really can actually conjure up that sense of love and gratitude in your heart. If you're just not feeling it that day, then set it aside and do it a different day. Sometimes that can be frustrating, but sometimes we just need to kind of give ourselves some space and time to process. So if you're not in that space, that's fine. Likely a different day you will be, and then you know that whatever response you get back is valid and true. And sometimes you can get a negative response, and you can feel an aversion or a recoiling inside, and that is usually indicative of something not being a match for you, something not being of the greatest purpose for you or what you're wanting. It's not always a sign of danger. It can be, but oftentimes it's just indicating like this is not what is going to be the best match or serve your highest purpose. So those are pretty much the three responses you can look for, and it's one way to bypass that brain. Be mindful of the minute you get the answer, what happens in your brain. You'll likely start to see a dialoguing. The rational brain can be very fear-based at times, so it might start to try to convince you that what you perceived was wrong. What are you doing? It's crazy to act like that, and ask yourself and think whatever answer comes up first is the true answer. And maybe even try to scare you and tell you the can'ts and why you shouldn't and all of that. But, again, we can't always see the purpose in the moment, but I really encourage you to start to trust your intuition. It's not something that you can ever manipulate. You can always convince yourself of anything in your head. But when it comes to our resonance and to our intuition, we can't manipulate that. We can cut off from it, but we can't actually manipulate it. It is meant to serve us in the higher good. So you will always benefit from it. Again, it doesn't mean that the answers will always please you, but it will be the honest truth and the thing that serves your purpose the most. So I hope that was helpful. It's just one tactic to use your intuition on a daily basis and to learn to start to dialogue with yourself. You can actually talk and interact with your inner being in multiple different ways. This is just one for kind of a Q&A guidance, but your higher self is always trying to connect with you. It's always trying to guide you. It's always trying to give you information to help you through life so that you can find the easiest, most positive path. It's just sometimes difficult for us to be in the receiving mode of that, not dismiss it, maybe not even notice it because we're distracted with other things. So I find that the rational brain is the thing that tends to be the most problematic when using our intuition, and can be kind of destructive and a bit of an antagonist at times, because intuition does not always register with logic and rationality. We don't always have all of the information in that moment. Often it proves to be true and we can get information later in time, but sometimes it'll encourage us, nudge us, or answer our calling in ways that we just would never have expected, and it seems sort of out of left field. And I generally tease and tell people, like, usually if your intuition does surface and it is trying to show you, it's going to be in ways that can seem kind of crazy, and you probably will feel like you're crazy sometimes, and that's all normal and par for the course. But once you start to trust it and you jump when it says to jump and you follow the lead and you see the positive results, then you'll be more confident in it and it'll become a little bit easier, and you'll spend most of your time learning to shut off the negative looping that goes on in the rational brain and less time worrying that you're perceiving wrong, because you'll just know, you'll have a knowing, a resonance with what's being told to you, and you'll know that you can trust it and you know that it's going to serve you well. Even if in that moment you can't understand how or why, you know that it will be revealed to you when it needs to be. So anyway, I wish you the greatest of days. Thanks for listening. Please feel free to like and comment, subscribe, and I will hopefully post another video in the upcoming days. Thanks so much. Have a great day.